Sean was a fisherman from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, known for his generosity and kindness. He always helped his neighbors and friends, whether it was with a small repair on a boat or sharing part of his day's catch. Despite his robust appearance and hands calloused from work at sea, Sean had a huge heart, always willing to do good. A few months after losing his beloved wife, Mary, Sean was immersed in deep depression. His days, once full of life and purpose, had become dark and lonely. It was on one of these lonely mornings that he found Bob, a puppy abandoned in an alley. The little one was trembling from the cold, hungry, and visibly scared. Sean, upon seeing the pitiful state of the animal, felt an immediate compassion. "Come here, little one," Sean said, bending down to pick up the puppy. "You're not alone anymore." Bringing Bob home, Sean found a new reason to live. Taking care of the little puppy brought him unexpected comfort, a distraction from the constant pain of losing Mary. Gradually, Bob brought back joy and vitality to Sean's days. The small dog, with his infectious energy and unwavering loyalty, became a constant and comforting presence. Since then, Sean and Bob formed an unbreakable bond. Together, they walked along the beach, explored the surroundings of Cape Cod, and spent long hours at sea. Bob accompanied Sean on his fishing journeys, sitting at the bow of the boat, gazing at the horizon with the same determination as his owner. "You're a good boy, Bob," Sean often said, stroking the dog's head. Life in the village of Cape Cod continued, but everyone noticed the change in Sean. He was happier, more willing to interact with others. Bob became a well-known and loved figure in the community. Children loved to play with him, and the village elders smiled at the inseparable duo. "Sean, I think Bob has brought back the sparkle in your eyes," commented Cassie, a longtime neighbor, one day at the village fair. "He saved me, Cassie," Sean replied, with a sincere smile. "I don't know what I would do without him." Sean was seen as a pillar of the community, always ready to help those in need. Bob, in turn, won everyone's heart with his loyalty and cheerful spirit. Together, they became a symbol of resilience and hope, reminding everyone that even in the darkest hours, light can be found in the most unexpected places. The sun was beginning to rise on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Sean was preparing for another day of fishing, an almost sacred ritual in his daily routine. He stroked Bob's head before setting off, as he always did. "Take good care of the beach while I'm away, buddy," Sean said, smiling at his loyal companion. Bob, usually calm, seemed restless that morning. As Sean drifted away on the boat, Bob stayed on the sand, watching every move of his owner. Something was wrong. The waves gently lapped the shore, but the little dog felt a growing discomfort. He started running back and forth, barking incessantly, as if trying to warn Sean of imminent danger. As the boat moved farther from the coast, the sky began to darken. Thick, threatening clouds appeared on the horizon, bringing with them a cold, cutting wind. Sean, out in the middle of the sea, noticed the sudden change in weather. The once calm sea turned into a turmoil of gigantic waves. The boat rocked violently, and Sean struggled to maintain control. "Damn, this wasn't forecasted," Sean shouted, gripping the helm tightly. Back on the beach, Bob continued to be restless. His barks were frantic, and he ran around, digging in the sand, as if trying to do something to help. Fishermen and villagers began to notice Bob's strange behavior. "What's wrong with him?" asked one of the fishermen. "I think he senses something bad is happening," replied Cassie, watching the dog with concern. Out at sea, the storm reached its peak. Winds howled and waves crashed furiously against Sean's boat. He held onto the helm with all his might, trying not to be thrown overboard. Lightning flashed across the sky, briefly illuminating the darkness around him. "Hang on, Sean, you can do this," he muttered to himself, trying to muster courage. But the storm was relentless. A massive wave rose and crashed down on the boat, throwing Sean into the icy water. He tried to swim back, but the current was too strong. He felt himself being pulled under, while the boat quickly drifted away. On the beach, Bob stopped barking and stood still, staring out at the sea. He knew something terrible had happened. His heart raced, and he continued to gaze at the horizon, hoping for a sign from his beloved owner. The storm roared with all its fury, while Sean fought for his life in the turbulent waters. The fate of the fisherman seemed uncertain, and the village, watching the storm from afar, couldn't imagine the desperate battle unfolding in the dark and treacherous waters. The relentless waves swallowed Sean's boat, and he never returned. The entire village was shaken by the news, but no one felt the loss more deeply than Bob. The little dog, who once ran joyfully along the beach, now spent his days sitting in the sand, staring steadfastly at the horizon, waiting for Sean. Every day, Bob returned to the same spot on the beach where he and Sean said goodbye every morning. His eyes, once full of life and joy, were now filled with sadness and determination. Nothing could keep him away from that spot. With each sunset, the hope of seeing Sean return seemed renewed in the faithful dog's eyes. "He's still waiting, Cassie," one of the fishermen said, pointing to Bob, who sat motionless in the sand. "He'll never give up," Cassie replied, her voice choked with emotion. Sean meant everything to him. Cassie, a longtime neighbor, took it upon herself to care for Bob. Every day, she brought food and water to the dog, trying in some way to alleviate his pain. Bob began living on the beach, waiting for Sean, and Cassie became his guardian angel. "Here you go, buddy. I know it's not much, but I hope it helps," Cassie said softly, placing a bowl of food beside Bob. Bob accepted the food, but his eyes never left the sea. He ate quickly, as if afraid of missing the moment when Sean would finally return. Cassie watched, feeling a profound sadness for him. The bond between Cassie and Bob grew, creating a strong emotional connection. Cassie started visiting the beach every day, not only to feed Bob but also to keep him company. "You know, Bob, we all miss Sean," she said, sitting beside him. "But you're the most loyal of all of us." Feeling Cassie's affection, Bob laid his head in her lap, something he rarely did. It was as if, for a brief moment, he found some comfort in her presence. Cassie gently stroked his head, trying to convey some form of solace. The entire village began to notice Cassie's dedication to Bob. Children came to play with him, trying to distract him, but Bob always returned to his post, watching the sea. The villagers felt a mixture of sadness and admiration at the dog's unwavering loyalty. "He's an example of loyalty," one of the village elders remarked. "We have much to learn from him." Bob's vigil continued, a poignant reminder of love and loyalty enduring beyond the storms of life, inspiring all who witnessed his steadfast wait for his beloved friend. Bob continued his tireless vigil on the beach, faithfully waiting for Sean. The news of Sean's loss and Bob's unwavering devotion spread quickly throughout Cape Cod. The residents, moved by the dog's loyalty, decided to come together to care for him. "We need to make sure Bob has everything he needs," Cassie said during a meeting in the village square. "Sean always helped all of us. Now it's our turn to repay that." The villagers organized shifts to feed Bob and ensure he had fresh water every day. Every morning and evening, a different person would bring a bowl full of food and words of encouragement. "Hey, Bob, good morning," Tim, a young fisherman, said as he placed a bowl of food beside the dog. "We're all here with you, buddy." Bob, with his sad yet determined eyes, accepted the food but never looked away from the sea. He ate quickly, as if every moment away from the horizon could mean missing Sean's return. Days turned into weeks, and Bob's story became known to everyone in the village. Children came to play on the beach, trying to cheer up the dog, and adults stopped to chat and offer a comforting gesture. "Have you seen how loyal Bob is?" Mabel, one of the village elders, asked Cassie. "It's a lesson for all of us about what it means to truly love someone." "Yes, Mabel," Cassie replied, looking fondly at Bob. "He reminds us every day that hope should never die." Fishermen returning from the sea made a point to stop and talk to Bob, share stories, and keep the flame of hope alive. "Don't worry, Bob," Jack, an old friend of Sean's, said, patting the dog's head. "We'll keep looking for Sean. He was one of the best among us." The community's dedication did not go unnoticed. Residents began to notice a positive change in the atmosphere. The sadness of Sean's loss was still felt, but the unity around Bob brought a new sense of purpose and solidarity to the village. "Look," a young mother said, watching her children play near Bob. "He's teaching us so much about love and perseverance." And about supporting each other, her husband added. It's not just about waiting, it's about what we do while we wait. Each day, Bob became more than just a dog waiting for his owner. He became the heart of the community, a living symbol of loyalty and resilience. The constant presence of the villagers by his side not only ensured his survival, but also strengthened the bonds among everyone, uniting the village around a common cause. We're all here for you, Bob, Cassie said, with a gentle smile. And as you wait for Sean, we'll wait with you. And so, the community of Cape Cod, touched by Bob's devotion, found strength and unity in a time of sorrow. Every act of kindness and every word of encouragement not only kept Bob fed, but also nourished everyone's hope that one day, Sean might return. A few days after the terrible storm, a tense morning began in the village of Cape Cod. The sun had barely risen on the horizon when a shout shattered the usual calm of the beach. "Someone come here," shouted a fisherman, running towards the center of the village. "They've found a body on the beach." The news spread like wildfire. Residents rushed out of their homes and ran to the beach, hearts heavy with fear and uncertainty. Among them was Cassie, who glanced at Bob, still motionless at his post, before joining the others. "Please, don't let it be Sean," murmured Cassie, hastening her steps. The tension was palpable. Each step on the sand felt heavier than the last. Upon reaching the beach, they saw the body partially covered by the waves. Fear and anxiety were etched on everyone's faces. "We need to check who it is," said Jack, Sean's longtime friend, advancing with determination but a heavy heart. The moments that followed were pure agony. Children were ushered away as adults formed a circle around the body. With trembling hands, Jack turned the body over. There was a collective sigh of relief mixed with sadness. "It's not Sean," announced Jack, his voice choked. "Thank God, it's not Sean." Even with the relief that it wasn't Sean, the pain of loss was renewed. The certainty that another member of the community had been claimed by the sea brought a wave of sadness. Cassie closed her eyes for a moment, tears streaming down her face. "We still have hope," said Cassie, trying to keep her voice steady. "Sean might still be out there, somewhere." The process of identifying the body was painful but necessary. Local authorities were called, and residents anxiously awaited conclusions. When they finally received confirmation that the body belonged to a fisherman from a neighboring village, there was a mix of relief and sorrow. "We need to inform his family," said Cassie, embracing Bob, who hadn't moved from his watch even amidst the chaos. "We'll take care of that," replied Jack, patting Cassie on the shoulder. Despite the relief that Sean wasn't the man found on the beach, the community felt a renewed sense of loss. Every face reflected the internal struggle between holding on to hope and accepting the harsh reality. "He will come back, Cassie," said one of the village elders, trying to console her friend. "We have to believe that." Cassie looked out at the sea, the same sea that had taken Sean away. She knew that hope was all they had left. And as long as there was a glimmer of hope, Bob would continue his watch, and the village would remain united, waiting for the miracle of Sean's return. "You're our inspiration, Bob," whispered Cassie, stroking the dog's head. "And we are here with you." Days later, worried whispers began to spread throughout the village of Cape Cod. Some tourists and residents started expressing concerns about Bob's constant presence on the beach. "He could be a danger to children," said a tourist, frowning. "What if he bites someone? Besides, those barks and howls at night are disturbing our sleep," added another, clearly annoyed. Tension escalated with each passing day. While many in the village saw Bob as a symbol of loyalty and hope, others began questioning the safety and sanity of keeping a solitary dog on the beach. Discussions intensified, and the community was divided. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Cassie sought out Mr. Adams, a respected community member and natural leader. "We need to do something, Mr. Adams. We can't let them take Bob away," pleaded Cassie, her voice laden with concern. "I agree, Cassie. Let's organize a meeting to discuss this with everyone," replied Mr. Adams, determined to resolve the conflict fairly. The meeting was scheduled for late afternoon in the village square. Everyone was present, from the eldest fishermen to curious tourists. Mr. Adams took the floor, trying to calm everyone down. "I understand all of your concerns," he began. "But we must remember that Bob has been a beacon of hope for this village. He's not just a stray dog, he's part of our community." Debates grew heated. Some argued that Bob should be taken to a shelter, while others, like Cassie, advocated for his continued presence on the beach. "He has never hurt anyone," exclaimed Cassie, tears in her eyes. "Bob is waiting for Sean. We can't take that away from him." "But what about the children? And the noise at night?" retorted a villager, trying to contain their anger. Mr. Adams, sensing emotions running high, raised his hand to call for silence. "The beach belongs to all of us," he said firmly. "This place belongs to everyone, including Bob. He is a creature of God, just like each of us. Who are we to decide who can or cannot stay here?" Empowered by Mr. Adams' words, Cassie added, "Bob didn't choose to be here alone. He's waiting for someone he loves. We can't just ignore that. We have a responsibility to take care of him, just as we take care of each other." Residents began murmuring in agreement. Mr. Adams and Cassie's words resonated deeply, reminding everyone of the values of compassion and inclusion that the community had always cherished. "We need to show the world that Cape Cod is a place of kindness and hospitality," said Mr. Adams. "And that means welcoming Bob and allowing him to continue waiting for Sean here, where he feels safe and loved." In the midst of the conflict, something unexpected happened. Disturbed by the growing tension and unable to understand the conflicts around him, Bob disappeared. Panic gripped the village. The village of Cape Cod was in despair. Bob, the faithful dog waiting for Sean, had disappeared. Panic gripped the community. Cassie, with a heavy heart, led the search alongside Mr. Adams. "We can't lose Bob," Cassie said, her voice trembling with emotion. "He's our hope." "We'll find him, Cassie," Mr. Adams replied, determined. "Everyone, listen up. We need to split up and search every corner of the village and surroundings." Search teams were quickly formed. Residents armed with flashlights, whistles, and hope spread out in all directions. The children, though worried, were kept at home while adults scoured fields, forests, and beaches. "Bob!" residents shouted, their voices echoing in the dark night. "Where are you, boy?" Cassie walked along the beach, the cold wind whipping her face. Her heart was heavy. Each step in the sand felt like a burden. "Bob, please come back to us," she murmured, holding back tears. Meanwhile, Mr. Adams led another group through the nearby forest. "Let's go, everyone. We won't give up. He must be around here somewhere," he encouraged, moving swiftly among the trees. The search for Bob extended beyond local efforts. The local media, touched by the dog's story of loyalty, began covering and spreading news of Bob's disappearance. Radio, TV, and social media shared the story, stirring even more hearts. "Disappearance of Bob, Cape Cod's loyal dog, mobilizes the community," announced the local TV reporter, showing images of residents searching desperately. Hours passed slowly. Each minute felt like an eternity. Anxiety grew among the residents, and hope began to fade. But then, just as night was about to give way to dawn, a shout pierced the silence. "I found him!" shouted Tim, a young fisherman. "Over here! Come quickly!" Cassie and Mr. Adams rushed towards the shout, their hearts racing. Upon reaching the spot, they saw Bob, hungry and scared, but alive. The dog was huddled under a tree, trembling with cold and fear. "Oh, Bob," Cassie said, kneeling beside him and stroking his head. "We're here, boy. You're safe now." Bob looked at Cassie with sad eyes, but recognized the familiar voice and slowly got up. Mr. Adams approached, wrapping the dog in a blanket he had brought. "Let's take him home," he said, with a relieved smile. "He's safe now." The return to the village was a moment of pure joy. Children, awakened by the news, ran to embrace Bob, while adults exchanged looks of relief and happiness. "He's back, Cassie," exclaimed Mabel, emotional. "You brought him back." "We all did it," Cassie replied, smiling through tears. Media coverage of Bob's disappearance and reunion intensified community support. People from neighboring villages sent messages of solidarity and even donations to ensure Bob had everything he needed. "Bob, you're part of our family," Mr. Adams said, petting the dog, "and we'll do everything to keep you safe and loved always." After the scare of Bob's disappearance and reunion, the village of Cape Cod continued to show its affection and support for the loyal dog. However, many residents, concerned for Bob's safety and the possibility of him getting lost again, began suggesting that he be adopted by a family who could keep him indoors. "Bob needs a safe home where he can be well cared for," said a resident during a meeting in the village square. "It's not fair to leave him on the beach forever." Several attempts were made to convince Bob to leave the beach. People approached with treats, toys, and even promises of a cozy home. But Bob, with his unwavering loyalty, always returned to the same rock where he waited for Sean. "Come on, Bob," said a lady, kneeling beside the dog. "You can have a warm and comfortable home." Bob, however, didn't budge. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, always waiting for Sean. Every adoption attempt ended with Bob returning to his spot on the beach, faithful to his absent owner. "He'll never leave this place, not as long as there's still hope," said Cassie, watching Bob with a knowing look. Mr. Adams, recognizing the depth of Bob's bond with Sean, led the community in continuing to care for the dog. They ensured Bob had food, water, and a comfortable little house on the beach. The bond between Cassie and Bob grew stronger, with Cassie visiting him daily, bringing not just food but also companionship and affection. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, Cassie sat beside Bob, gently stroking his head. "Bob, you're the most loyal dog I've ever known," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I know you're waiting for Sean, and it deeply moves me. Your loyalty is a reminder to all of us of what true love means." Bob looked at Cassie, his eyes shining with a mix of sadness and determination. "I know it sometimes feels hard to keep waiting," Cassie continued, "but faith is what keeps us strong. You've taught me so much about love and hope. No matter how much time passes, we'll never lose faith that Sean might come back." Cassie's words seemed to touch Bob's heart. He rested his head on her lap, finding comfort in her presence. Cassie continued to speak, sharing her deepest feelings. "You know, Bob, many people think loyalty is just a matter of time. But you've shown us it's so much more than that. It's about believing, even when all seems lost. It's about never giving up on those we love." The gentle wind rustled Cassie's hair and Bob's fur, while the beach embraced them in a mantle of peaceful silence. The community, watching from afar, was touched by the moment of tenderness between the woman and the dog. "We'll be here with you, Bob," said Cassie, with a soft smile, "until the day Sean returns, and even after that. You're part of our family, and you'll never be alone." Years passed in Cape Cod, but one constant remained. Bob, the loyal dog, never left his vigil on the beach. Day after day, he sat on the same rock, staring out at the sea, waiting for Sean's return. The community, always united around Bob, cared for him with affection and respect, recognizing the depth of his loyalty. "Look at him, still steadfast in his post," said Jack, one of the older fishermen, to a group of tourists. "This dog is a true example of love and loyalty." Residents took turns ensuring Bob had everything he needed. Cassie continued to visit him daily, bringing not just food but also conversations and affection that strengthened their bond. "You know, Bob, each passing day, you inspire us more," Cassie would say, sitting beside him. "Your love for Sean is something we all deeply admire. Despite constant care, time takes its toll." Bob began to show signs of aging. His steps became slower, and his gaze, though still determined, carried the weight of years of waiting. Even so, he never left his post, loyal to the end. One day at dawn, Cassie found Bob lying in his little house, looking out to sea as he always did. She approached, sensing something was different. "Bob," she called softly, kneeling beside him. Bob let out a peaceful sigh, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He had passed away peacefully, surrounded by the love of the community that meant so much to him. Cassie, tears streaming down her face, gently stroked his head one last time. "You were the best, Bob," she whispered, her heart heavy with loss. News of Bob's passing quickly spread through the village, bringing a wave of sadness and reflection. Residents gathered on the beach, many with tears in their eyes, to pay their final respects to the faithful dog. "Bob taught us so much about love and loyalty," said Mr. Adams, his voice choked with emotion. "His story will stay with us forever." In a gesture of recognition and respect, the village decided to erect a statue in Bob's honor. Led by Mr. Adams, the community worked together to create a memorial worthy of his loyalty. The statue, sculpted with love and care, depicted Bob looking out to sea, eternally vigilant. "This statue is not just for Bob," said Mr. Adams during the unveiling ceremony. "It is for all of us, to remind us of the power of love and perseverance." Bob's story became a legend in Cape Cod, a lasting symbol of loyalty and perseverance. His memory continued to inspire all who heard his story, reminding them of the importance of never giving up on those we love. And so, the story of Bob, the loyal dog of Cape Cod, echoed through the ages, based on the real-life story of Vegito, the dog who, 5 years ago, waited for his owner who had gone to sea on Punta Negra Beach in Lima, Peru. We pay homage to Vegito here. If you enjoyed this touching story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Like the video, share it with your friends, and leave your comments below about what you thought of Bob's loyalty. Your participation means a lot to us. Until the next story.